to ride their bike to work, but nobody's really going to do it because you're sweating and it's dangerous. But Gabriella will give you, the nuts and bolts and show you how you can make it really possible.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to wait just a couple of minutes so the live stream can be set up. I'm guessing they'll let us know when we've got the okay. But also, as you know, the library opened at 1, so kind of nice to let our friends get some time to settle in. All right.
I know you're kind of new to get on here too, though, so.
Actually, that's not happening any longer. So we're free.
Okay.
If for some reason we run a little bit over, good people have questions like, do we need to scurry out of the room or do we have time to mingle? Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Kelly. All right. Hi. How did y'all get here today?
Well, we're from Bentonville, so.
Oh,
a bit of
a drive.
We drove.
You drove, that's fair. Anyone else?
Bike.
You biked already, cool. Anything other than driving or biking that we used to get here today?
Like helicopter?
Whoa, you did? That would be nice on occasion, yeah.
Parked on the wrong side, so I walked a ways.
Yeah, you walked a little bit, mixed modes of transportation, good, cool. Yeah, we usually all have to walk a little bit to get to our bike or our car or bus or whatever it is. Yeah, they all can be used together. Still waiting on that to happen. How about we do our icebreaker here then while we're waiting for the live stream to happen? I don't think that the live stream needs to see the icebreaker. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and have you partner up, preferably with someone you don't know already. And you're gonna ask each other your name and where your next destination point is going to be. Is there a place that you wanna go to by bike? And where is that place? Okay? So we'll do, starting from this side, 2, 2, 2. We'll kind of weave around like a little snake. And if you don't have a partner, I'll be your partner.
I'm Jay. Yeah, Jay Chappell.
Oh, you all two can partner together. There you go. Okay, thank you. We're doing an icebreaker. Great.
I haven't ridden outside of Bentonville, so, yeah, so I'd like to go to, I planned to, I don't know about Alter somewhere, I don't know if they I plan to ride at least to downtown Rogers, and maybe farther south and up to I go to the rail yard, listen to music, just to
Fun. We're doing an icebreaker. You may have to introduce yourself, but it'll be, what's your name? And what's the first destination you'd like to bike to after this class?
Yeah, I'd like to, like next year, maybe go to the rail yard. What about you?
Okay. I'll give you 60 more seconds. Oh. You can quickly interview Maria.
I have ladders in the back of my garage, and tools in the back, so riding a bike to work isn't gonna work out for me.
That's okay.
Especially when half my work is down here in Fayetteville.
All right, start wrapping it up and be prepared to introduce your partner. All right. Woo. You think you can hold that in your heads? For anybody who didn't get to interview another person, I'm sorry, you'll have to introduce yourself. But I'll go ahead and, well, yeah, we'll start with you. Introducing your friend.
This is Brenda Mason, lives in Bentonville. She got one of the Bentonville e-bike rebates and is starting to get into biking and has ordered her helmet and works in Rogers, and so there may be the opportunity to commute there.
Neat.
Okay, this is Melody,
That's okay.
and she lives in Fayetteville, and she loves to go to Bentonville. And the trip that she'd like to take is going from Northwest Arkansas to Jonesboro.
Wow.
And then her international trip, she'd like to go to Amsterdam during tourism.
Wow.
Very cool.
We're
More
quite
ambitious.
different. Opposite ends of that.
With things in common still.
This is Rick Toole. He lives in Bentonville. He does ride to work. He rides his bike to work, and he's here to find out more about being safe. I did not get where he wants to ride next. But he has three bikes though, gravel, road, and dirt.
This is Jay, and I'm Chappie, okay. And he drives a truck with stuff in it, so it's kind of hard for him to commute. But he wants to ride to the rail yard from Bentonville, and catch what brought you here today. But he's got an e-bike, so we just want to do more riding.
Nice. Thank you.
This is Anastasia, with Tardy Squad, so I don't have a partner. Let's see, I live here in Fayetteville, and I just want to bike to yoga class maybe, I think that would be nice.
Ooh, it's a good warm-up.
This is David, and he said he wanted to go with his kids around, like teach. Well, I guess kind of eventually teach the kids like that. I guess they're too young right now, but yeah, and try to instill that kind of culture and stuff like that.
Yeah. This is Spencer. So Spencer just learned how to ride a bike a couple months ago. And here he is.
Yeah.
He'd like to ride to work more, but it's a little on the far side. He said it's 20 minutes in a car. So quite a bit, double or more on a bike. And that's from Springdale to Rogers. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is Marcella, and she would like to work once she get her hands on a bike. But it would be, I think, mostly on the trail. It would be kind of far from Weddington to like Gray campus, but possibly doable. And this is she lives really close to town, and they're kind of into biking. But yeah, she wants to ride her bike to Lake Fayetteville.
Oh.
Not too. Oh, but around. Right over there and then just.
Right around there. Okay.
This is Sandy. She lives near Centennial Park, and she would like to bike to Walmart neighborhood market. She doesn't have a bike yet, but she wants to learn more. For example, she told me that there is actually biking trails around where she lives, but she doesn't know if they are good for beginners or advanced.
Okay.
This is Sammy, and he wants to bike around Lake Fayetteville, to Lake Fayetteville and then around.
Neat. Good.
This is Angel and Teresa. They live in Rogers, and I think their next destination to bike to is just going to be the park, which sounds really cool.
Yeah.
This is Jonathan, and he has a bicycle and he rides it.
Everywhere. Yeah, you rode it here today, right? Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for sharing. I'm Gabriella. I am the program manager for our Trailblazers community classes. I live in Bentonville at the moment, and the next place I want to ride to is probably work. I have a little bit of a knee injury, so I'm already itching to do it. I'm sad I had to hop in the van. I had a dream that I was gonna have everything brought here ahead of time, and I was gonna ride my bike from Bentonville to Fayetteville and be like, I did it. Didn't turn out that way, but it is doable. So for some of you who say you live in Bentonville and do visit Fayetteville, there is a Square to Square ride, which is a formal event that happens. But I've also done it myself before. Did a bike ride here, ate at Chipotle, rode back home. It's a way of getting to your destination, but also fitting in some recreational fun smiles, right? Recreational is a big, long word for happiness, I think. All right. I should also introduce who are the Trailblazers. So we are a nonprofit organization based in Bentonville that serves Northwest Arkansas and other surrounding communities. We have a very long, over 25-year history in developing, building, designing trails and other infrastructure that is multi-purpose, so walking, cycling, scootering, one wheels, etc. But the goal of community classes like this today are really to help people get the skills, knowledge, and sometimes resources, so you'll get a free set of lights after this class, to go out there and do it more often, right? I wanna give you the tools to be able to choose walking or biking, active transportation more often. Yes, that's me. We did our icebreaker here. So today in Confident Commuting, we're gonna go over some big topics, a lot of things, but I also want you to know that I'm here for your questions. If at any point during the presentation, there's something in the back of your head that you really wanna know, just throw your hand up, ask me. I'm here to answer the things that you have questions about, not necessarily what I wanna tell you. How about a happy blend of both? All right, so we'll talk about why to commute by bike. What are the benefits? What are the reasons we might choose a bike? What gear do you need, right? Look at all this stuff I brought with me. I promise you I don't haul this all in one load for each commute. Planning your very first commute, because some of you are curious, right? We've never done it before. What does it really take? Rules of the road and rider safety. So even if we want to ride primarily on protected bike lanes or multi-use trails, we usually need to get there somehow. There's usually a neighborhood street we need to navigate, or maybe there's a busier road we have to cross. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Depending on the timing in the class, we may go into some more complex topics of the principles of traffic law. So talking about lane positioning, where to put yourself at an intersection so you're visible and also most protected from a car that might wanna get around you, right? Maybe they're in a hurry. Well, how do we deal with that situation? Okay. Oh, my picture didn't show up. All right, why commute by bike? I'm curious to know, what are your reasons for wanting to commute by bike? There are probably at least 6 different ones I can think of, but I wanna know what your reason is. So in an ideal world, this would have come up as a QR code. I have a link right here, polev.com/my really long name 392. Can everybody see that? If you go to that link, you can enter. I want to see your answers, and we'll put our little word cloud up and see what everyone has in common, what shows up the most, and maybe some things that we hadn't considered. Haha. How about that? Does the QR code work for you? You can also see it right here, too. If you want to keep your answers very personal, don't look at the screen yet. Give you another 30 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Please put your phones down. All right. So just for the sake of being able to talk about this, I'm going to ask that nobody submit any additional answers, and we'll look at what we have here. So what are the biggest things we see up here?
Exercise, health, fun.
Yes. I love all these. Hey, someone submitted a late response. All right, exercise, health, fun. By riding our bikes to work, we probably get a little more exercise over driving, right? Health, wake up. Health. So yeah, we are concerned about our health, and there are actually studies out there that show that our health care costs overall will go down if we use an active form of transportation over driving. Fun. I love that one. Who doesn't want to sneak a little bit of fun on their way to work, right? On the way to running errands. Yeah, it's also exercise. It's a hard thing to fit in those days, right? So if you sneak it in as part of a commute, you're getting 2 birds, 1 stone. Also, we got savings. I also see energy here. So it could be energy savings. There are reduced amounts of fuel, reduced carbon emissions that we get. I think some of us submitted multi-word answers. Let's see, we've got environmentally helpful. We're going to reduce carbon emissions.
Feels.
Mindset, feels.
Yeah.
Where's feels at?
Feels.
All the feels. All the feels. Feels this, feels that. Old, I don't know, because old. Does anybody want to explain where old went from?
I didn't realize there was supposed to be 1 word. It said not trying to get old too soon.
Oh, so increasing your life. Yeah, great. Yeah, all right. Easier. Sometimes riding a bike is an easier choice. What's easier about it? Yes, parking. You ever go to one of those spots and you're like, gosh, dang it, I'm like going in circles for 10 minutes. I may as well have just walked here, right? This is one of those situations where sometimes it's easier to park a bike than it is to park a car. Better. Energy probably goes to savings, but sometimes it does also give you a little more energy at work. We'll talk about some numbers that Forbes reported as well. There have been benefits to when you show up somewhere, your energy is better, your clarity is better. I'm guessing reduce some sort of emissions, everything is the reason. All right, ooh, volunteering. Where did volunteering come from? Yeah. So to volunteer, to go somewhere? Excellent. Cool. Anything here we're missing that someone wants to shout out that I couldn't quite piece together? All right, we'll move on. We're going to go back to the slide and we're going to see if everything we talked about pops up. So, physical health. Yes? We all know that it's going to help improve our cardiovascular system if we get a few more moments of exercise in. My commute is 15 minutes each way. So that's my 30 minutes of exercise each day that I get knocked out. It costs me 7 minutes to drive by car. What do I get from driving the car? Extra insurance costs, extra car payment, extra, what am I missing? Maintenance, all sorts of things. But if I ride my bike, I get a smile. It costs me an extra 8 minutes each way, and I get my exercise in. And pride, right? I got there myself. Mental health. Let me see here. People say that they have improved attitudes when they get to work. How many of you get out of bed, start getting ready, start going towards the door, and you're like, I really don't want to go to work today. Today's a tough day. Well, people find that once they ride their bike to work, it helps to clear the mind, right? You start to essentially energize yourself for the workday. Reset, get started, transition from home to work. And sometimes, guess what? we have problems at home. It's a great way to leave those there too. What about when you get home from work? If you drive a car, how many of you have sat there and just tried to decompress in your car for another 5 minutes before going into the house? Anybody? I see a Kelly back there. It's okay if you don't want to admit it. Yes, it's a nice in-between space. And that is the cool thing about being on a bike. Huh?
A driveway moment.
A driveway moment, yes, indeed. So people also find it's a great way to leave work where it is, leave school where it is, whatever it is, when it's actual commuting. Just clear the mind. Be ready, be home, be relaxed, and you got your exercise in. Environmental impact. So I'll show you this real quick. These are carbon emissions. So when we walk, 0 grams emitted. Bicycle, 0. Telecommuting, that's also an option. But compared to driving by yourself, it's really helpful if we carpool, and it's really helpful if we use hybrids or if we use electric vehicles, but it doesn't quite match, right? There's big differences here. Now, if you use the bus, which is a great option as well, the ORT actually has some bike racks on there. There's a way to connect the pieces. So if you're thinking, man, I do want to reduce my carbon emissions, but riding a bike is a far way to go, you can combine them, and it's still less than if you were to drive by yourself. Okay? I'll go back up here. Money savings, I think, is a big one. And if you're really lucky, your employer has a bike incentive program. Believe it or not, this is a thing that is out there. We're very fortunate that Trailblazers offers a $5 incentive. So every day that I ride my bike to work, I get $5, and that helps essentially to pay for the cost of my bicycle. I did the math. I did how many days I was going to have to commute by bike to pay for it. Okay. Time savings. How many times have you been stuck in traffic and saw someone walking faster than you, riding their bike faster than you? Sometimes it's a more direct route, believe it or not. It seems like it would take more time, and maybe it would, but sometimes it's a wash. Sometimes because of traffic, it's actually easier to get there by bike, quicker to get there by bike. And community. How might we see community in bike commuting?
I know I usually do single bike rides, but if I stop and there's a group of bikers, they're all just really friendly, and you just kind of, you just meet other bikers.
Yeah. How many times do you see that in traffic in your car?
Yeah.
Right?
The only waving usually is like a one finger, you know.
Yep. Yep. Telling this to the mic. They say usually the only waving is a one-finger wave. Yep. So we have these big boxes. Cars are these big boxes that isolate us. Well, see, what happens sometimes is you will find other people commuting with you, alongside you in a bike. Next thing you know, you have a friend. Maybe you're crossing paths. You're not necessarily going together, but you're more likely to wave, say hello, be friendly, get to know who your neighbors are. Like, oh, hey, Jill, I never knew that you worked near here, but you saw Jill on a bike instead of in their car. Anything else anyone would like to add? Your reason for commuting by bike?
We're actually trying to go down to one car.
Yes. That's what I was hoping for.
Trying to get rid of the car, yeah,
Exactly. So when my partner and I moved here to Northwest Arkansas, I was able to offload my car. We went down to one car. Many households can get away with that. There are things you have to navigate, and we'll talk about some of those things. And guess what? For some people, being carless is not an option, but it's a way of life for them. So using a bike is their quickest mode of transportation. As we all probably maybe know, the ORT is working to have more connections, more frequent schedules of stops, but we're not there yet. So sometimes a bike is still the best way. Any other questions before we move on? Y'all are great. So what gear do you need? Probably seems like a lot. I'm going to say a bike and a helmet are the bare minimum. You want a bike that fits well, and you want a bike that works well, something that is reliable, right? Same thing for your car, right? You wouldn't want to go out there with bald tires. You wouldn't want to go out there with no engine oil. So well-fitting, good working bike. Helmet. It's not legally required, but I really like you all so far, and I want to save your lives. So I'm going to say wear a helmet, right? It's not only trusting yourself to handle a bicycle, but it's trusting that, things will happen in the world, right? A squirrel may come across, a kid may kick a soccer ball in your path. Things may happen, and a helmet is a life-saving tool. There are extras. Questions you might want to think about are, what does your trip look like? What does your day look like? Are you willing to ride in all conditions, or are you a fair weather rider? In any case, if you can think of some sort of barrier, there's probably something that's been invented to solve that problem, all right? There's something for it. So we'll go to choosing your bike first. Most of us have bikes, some of us do not. One of the first things you'll probably want to think about is cost, right? How much do I realistically have to spend on a bicycle? Pedal It Forward is a great resource. They're a local nonprofit that refurbishes bikes. And if you're ever tired of your bike, you can donate it to them. They help get bikes out into the community. I would say...
Pedal it forward.
Pedal, yeah. Pedal It Forward. We also have an adult first ride program, so if anybody hasn't ridden a bike in many, many years or has never learned at all, we have that, right? That's the class that Spencer was talking about that he attended, and at the end of the class, we actually give you a free bike and a helmet to get started, okay? So think about cost, be realistic about what your budget is. The fit and frame style. So we have several bikes around here. I'm not sure I can get over one, but this here is what we call a step-through frame. In your head, you may have the concept of a straight top tube for a bicycle as being the most typical. This is actually very handy for anybody who has limited hip mobility, maybe just shorter legs, or maybe you want to wear a dress, a skirt. This makes that more doable. My bike over there doesn't have quite as aggressive of a step through, but notice that the handlebars on the yellow bike are way higher. Notice that those are a little bit lower. I like to be a little more leaned over. It's a little better for a fitness bike. If I wanted to maneuver it more easily, it would be better for me. But if I want to be upright, I have a backpack on, having higher handlebars are typically a good option. There is also folding bikes. So those fit a little bit differently, and we'll get there for storage. But if you have no space to lock up your bike, you get to work and you can maybe like tuck it under your desk, or you're at school and you don't want it to get stolen at all, they actually even have little carrying bags where you can carry your bikes with you. What else? Durability and working order. So you can only imagine that your boss, your teacher, whatever it is, your doctor, might be upset if you get to your destination late. So you want to make sure that your bike is in solid working order. We'll go to, if you have this here, does everybody have this? Yeah. We have a little ABC quick check there. So if you already have a bike, there are a few things you want to check. You want to check your air pressure. You want to check that you have solid working brakes. Right here I said brakes because if we can stop more immediately, we are safer. Some people have fixie bikes. Well, those fixie bikes can't stop on a dime. There's also something called rim brakes and something called disc brakes. Gosh, I don't even know that we have any disc brakes in the room. Disc brakes. Yeah, we're all using disc brakes. Well, I'll tell you why. Your more traditional, or I don't want to say traditional, maybe the bike you grew up with. Classic. The original brakes were rim brakes. The rim brake would grab the rim here and slow it down. But when there is water, when there is debris, all of a sudden there's not as much traction, there's not as much grab between the brakes and the rim itself. So, disc brakes, we have them on our cars, but these disc brakes will actually have a, I don't think I have to show you, but basically the pads will grab the disc itself instead. It has better clearing, so if there's any debris or moisture, it'll clear that much better. And it also stops it from the center of the wheel. So when you think about physics, if we're trying to stop it towards the edge of the wheel, it's not gonna stop as quickly or as powerfully, but with disc brakes, it'll be better. So if you're an all-weather rider, if you know you're gonna be riding in all sorts of conditions, disc brakes would be a more ideal choice for you. Gears. Fayette Hill, right? That's what it's called. So if you live in a relatively flat area or you know that your commute is gonna be relatively flat, that can probably get away with a single speed bicycle, and that's okay. If you have hills, you may actually want some gears on it. For the sake of durability and low maintenance, I personally have what's called a one-by drivetrain. So instead of having a front shifter and a front chain ring, I only have a rear derailleur back here. I only have a cassette here, single front ring here. That helps reduce the amount of moving parts, but I still get the advantage of shifting if I approach a hill or I'm just tired or I am carrying a heavy load that day. There's also a thing called an e-bike. That's a really great way to make the hills feel flat. If you don't know what that is, we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation today, just for some bonus material. But essentially, you're pedaling, and it's giving you assistance. It makes it easier for you to go faster and further. Any questions so far? No? All right. Ooh, terrain is also a thing. Terrain is also a thing. So I'm very fortunate in that in and around where I live, there are actually mountain bike trails that can help connect me to different places in a safer way than going on the roads. So I chose to have a slightly more rugged tire. Something with a little more knobs or a little more width. This is actually off of a mountain bike. Would give you even more traction. But for the most part, I'm gonna be riding on roads, so I still want something that's gonna roll efficiently. So it's a little bit thinner and has fewer knobs on the tire itself. The other thing you may wanna consider is durability, puncture resistance of that tire, right? So there are some that are gonna be heavier. The cost is you have to push a little more weight, but the upside is you're way less likely to get flats. And as we all know, there's typically debris along the gutters on the sides of the road, because we're typically riding on the right side of the road anyway, right? We'll get there too. Suspension, if someone wants a smooth ride, that can help. If you're on the road that has a whole bunch of potholes, you ever been on that one with all the cracks and stuff? Yeah. That is helpful. And also fender compatibility, right? We talked about, are you gonna ride in all weather conditions? How many of you know what a fender is? Yeah, not everyone, that's great. I feel important right now. So these are fenders. These right here. They basically prevent the tire from kicking up any moisture that's on the road. So if it's a morning where it rained, it stopped raining, you want to commute anyway, this fender will help block that from getting on you, on your clothing. There's one here in the rear. The only thing you want to note when you're choosing a bike is, does it have compatibility with fenders? Also, storage is on the bottom, cargo. So if I wanted to, I could put fenders on here. I also have little cargo mounting points. That would be a question, let's say you're shopping for a bike. You want to let them know, hey, I want fenders on my bike, or hey, I do want to be able to carry a cargo. Can this frame do that, right? Maybe it doesn't have it on there today, but I want that option later. All right. You also want to think about the average length of your commute. So who here thinks that they would have the shortest commute to school or work? What would that be?
26 miles.
Wow, that's pretty good. Might be faster to walk. What about the longest commute to work or school? Gavin, what's the length of your commute?
I live in South Fayetteville and I work in Bentonville, so I'm 30 plus miles.
This is Pretty long. So you want to think about that. Is the bike going to be good for 1 mile? Do you need it to be good for 15 miles? I've done that in the past too, and my answer to that was an e-bike in that case. Also, the storage part of things, right? Do you live on the first floor? Do you live on the second floor? Do you live on the 4th floor? Is there an elevator, right? How are you gonna store your bike either at home or at your destination? That's been one of the things I've had to consider before. Okay, I have to go up this windy staircase. Is this bike light enough for me to carry? Those are real things that you have to think about. Or is there space that I can make in my garage because this bike is too heavy? But when you're choosing a bike, those are things I would think about. How many of you like show up to your house, show up to work, show up somewhere with like 3 bags of stuff and people are like, are you sure you have everything? Anybody? Or you have that friend, right? Well, if you're that person who wants to be prepared at all times or your life just requires a lot of stuff, you want to make sure that that bike can carry that stuff. You want to look at cargo carrying capacity. We talked about the mounts, but there are also weight limits, structural weight limits to bikes. So if you're like, man, for work, I have to carry 200 pounds of stuff, can this bike carry me in that? Those are questions you might want to ask. Anything else so far? No? All right, we'll move on. Helmet. How many of you don't own a helmet? It's okay if you don't. If you don't have a bike, but you have a helmet, I'll be really surprised. Are you serious? Get this man a helmet. So helmets do reduce the severity of head injuries. They also can change your whole life, or worse, right? I've cracked some helmets in my life. I've been riding bikes for commuting since 2008. Since 2008. And I have cracked some helmets, and I've been glad that I had them there. It was just roadkill was the first time I cracked a helmet. I didn't expect it to be there, but it happened, and I was really glad I wore my helmet that day. So how should the helmets be worn? Because this is equally important. It's not just about wearing a helmet. It's about wearing a good quality helmet that's approved by the DOT. Most are. And it's about wearing it properly. So if you can see by this, our silly little dummy right here, there are right ways and wrong ways to wear a helmet. One of the things that happens really commonly is maybe you're wearing your hair a certain way or you just rush to put your helmet on, but your forehead is fully exposed. If your forehead is fully exposed, we don't want this to happen, but if you were to have a frontal accident, then you would be most likely to hit your face and hurt that. If you have it over your forehead with maybe just about 2 fingers of room, you're going to have more frontal protection. We also don't want it slid forward either. That's gonna be uncomfortable, harm visibility, and not have quite the same amount of back protection as a helmet is designed to have, okay? So we can go over this more if you'd like, but it is in that resource guide. So if you want to double check yourself later, that's what I'd recommend. You do want to use the chin strap. It goes right about here. My helmet. And you want to make sure that the straps are around your ears and not on top of them, okay? There's a dial in the back on most of them. I prefer them because it does make sure that my helmet is fitting snugly and it's not going to come off if I fall. For some of you, you're probably concerned about what your hair is going to look like when you get to your destination. We got one man in the front who says no. I will say I'm really excited that today I got to be here without helmet hair, but it's just also a reality that I've considered. I style my hair a little bit differently. I might wear it a little bit differently. It's just another thing to think about. When I go see my hairstylist, I say, okay, if I wear a helmet, my bangs need to be this short. That's real. I want to make sure that I can see things, or like, let's go a little bit shorter because, yeah, I need to see, and they're going to be flat by the time I get to work. That's what it's going to look like. All right, let's go ahead and move to the next one. Any questions? I want questions. All right. So we've been talking about the gear you need. What about the gear you want, right? Some people like to make their cars like extra cool. Some people like to make their bikes extra cool, and you can do that too. But there are some things that I do suggest. Lights and reflectors. The days are getting shorter. If you are planning on riding at either dusk or dawn, I highly recommend having a front light and a tail light.
I would highly recommend any commuter should have lights on all the time.
Agreed.
They always are blinking.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe having more than one set on the front and back. I have two in the front and two in the back, and I still have people who don't see them.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue
Yep.
I run into is drivers. You gotta give them every chance to see it.
Yeah. So the recommendation from our friend is the 2 sets of headlights and 2 sets of taillights, because honestly, there aren't that many people that are using cycling as a mode of transportation in this area, and it can be hard for them to see you, and sometimes they don't expect you. So the goal is to make yourself as visible as possible, right? There was a mention of having the blinky lights on at all time. There have also been studies talking about daylight running lights. So if you have your lights flashing during the day, that will also increase your visibility. It's not just about riding at dusk or at dawn. If you want to make sure that you are as safe as you can possibly be, make yourself more visible and use lights as a way to do that. As far as legal requirements, in this region, they require a front light at dusk and dawn and only a rear red reflector. I would actually say that you should really have a red tail light. If you're gonna have a front headlight, you should have a rear tail light, because honestly, if someone's coming from behind, they can't gauge their speed quickly enough. By the time they notice your reflector, it's a little too late. So I would recommend using a rear red tail light. A bell. So trail etiquette says that if you are passing someone, you can ring your bell to let them know that you're coming. And they come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes and sounds. Pick one that suits you, pick one that suits your needs. There's also horns that you can get. You can also say passing on your left if you're on a trail, but when it comes to a vehicle, let's say your bell isn't enough, I sometimes use my voice. The voice can cut through. If you ever have listened to an orchestra with a singer in front of it, the voice will cut through more than 70 instruments will. So use it. Bike lock. How are you going to protect that beautiful bike that you just chose that is the perfect commuting bike for you? Well, you want to make sure that it's well protected. I highly recommend, at minimum, a U-lock. This little thing right here, not enough. If you can see your bike the whole time, you're just hopping in and out of somewhere for 5 minutes, I would maybe recommend this because it's easier to carry and lighter, but a U-lock is going to be harder for someone to cut through. They come in all different sorts of gauges and weights, but ultimately, you're trying to make it harder, right? And I hate to say this, but if they see a bike that's unlocked versus yours locked, which one do you think they're gonna take, right? Or if they just see a flimsy cable lock on one and a U-lock on another one, which one are they gonna take? So I would use everything you have at your disposal to make sure that your bike is okay. Yeah, sure, maybe your apartment or renters or home insurance will cover the loss of that bicycle, but who wants that sadness, right? And then how are you gonna get home after that? Okay. You might notice that this has a cable and a U-lock. So I should honestly just pass this around. There's a little image on there that talks about how to protect all parts of your bicycle. This one in particular is helpful if you have what we call quick release levers. Quick release levers are probably not to be found on any of these bikes, but if you were to open it up, it's very easy to pull your wheel off. Sometimes people steal things just because they can. So typically what I would do is use the U-lock to lock the frame, the rear wheel, and a pole, the bike rack itself all together, and I loop the cable through the front wheel to make sure that everything is protected, everything is secured. On my bike, if you want to look at it now or later, I actually have bolt-on skewers instead of quick release skewers so that I don't have to do that. So bolted here, bolted on the other side. Sure, if someone has the right tool, they can pull it off, but it's going to be harder for them than if it's a quick release. Oops. Same thing with the seat post. If it's a quick release, it's really nice because you can adjust it very easily, but it's also really nice because someone can just pull it off. And believe it or not, I've had many friends where that's happened to them. Like they just had to try to figure out how to ride their bike without a seat that day. Okay. It's also like, what, $50 to $75 to replace it? I wouldn't want to do that. Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
How would you recommend carrying the U-lock, because I have one, how would you recommend carrying it to the location? Is that a backpack or?
There are many ways you can carry a lock with you. The question is, how do you recommend carrying it? Some of them, like that one, comes with a mount. Over time, it's a heavy lock, so the mount tends to come loose. Some are better than others. I have another on-bike storage here on my bike. So it's just a nice little clip-on. I pull this out. This one is a different style. So it folds and collapses. This is an Abus Bordeaux lock, if you're curious about that. I've also carried it in my backpack, or you can even, say, get a handlebar bag, and if it fits in there, you can put it in there. You can try to find some sort of storage device. I wish I had my other bike. I had a bike where I could insert it into a slot, but that was a very special frame. You got me thinking, what else could I do? Oh, buckets. You can also do panniers, right? So you could theoretically just put your lock in here, or if you have a basket, you could put your lock in there. And you can just put this little pannier right here. Technically, this is a bucket, but put it right on the rear cargo rack here. Or if you think about like those really cool bicycle couriers, they have that chain lock that they just wear across their chest. I've done that before too. There are many different styles, but if you look at any lock manufacturer's website, they'll give you different ratings of the safety level. They make New York style kryptonite locks, for example, that are meant to be New York resilient.
Also wear that type, wear that on your body, or wear it
You might be able to. I've also seen people like loop them through their belt loops. But overall, when you're thinking about how you're carrying stuff, you want to make sure that you can still ride the bike safely. So I would take that into consideration. Put it in a way that it doesn't interfere with the bike or you.
Because I think it was a couple weeks ago, I parked my car away, and I biked to a destination, but I had to bring the lock with me, but I didn't have a backpack or anything.
Yeah.
So I just had to, what did I do? I put the U-lock around the bike, and then while I was cycling, it just couldn't get
Yes,
it.
exactly.
And then the cord, I think I just tried to tie it around me. So.
Yeah. If nothing else, do you have a backpack? Do you have a
Yeah,
drawstring bag or
that
something?
is-
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. No.
Well, I tried a sash backpack.
Mm.
It was like I got it really, really tight.
Mhm.
But then while I was cycling, it just like moved. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I think it's too heavy. Yeah, and then that's already too heavy if I put that in there.
Yeah. I really like my mount on that bike. That's really helpful. And then I also use just like honestly a traditional backpack. And it also has a closure right here to make sure that it stays in place. Yeah.
He's pointing out that that little chest, whatever you call it,
Mhm.
that clip on there, I tried riding one time without one of those, and I went to dismount, and it shifted on me, and it literally threw me off the bike.
Mm-hmm.
In front of a bus. It was not cool. A stopped bus, but it was embarrassing. There were a lot
Yeah.
of people who witnessed me falling off a bike while standing still.
Yeah. Yep. So where our center of gravity on the bike is very important. So that is also why you'll see bike-specific backpacks, bike-specific messenger bags. Messenger bags I haven't personally tried, but if a friend has one, try it. See if it works for you. You can sometimes find these things at bike shops. What I have found for myself, because I was also a flutist and I had waterproof needs, I needed to make sure that my flute and my sheet music wasn't going to be harmed should I get caught in the rain. I needed something that could handle that, and that was this bag. The other nice thing about this, some of these bike backpacks, is they have mesh in the back, something that separates the backpack from your back to try to give you a little more breathability. But that is also the downside of a backpack, which is why there are baskets, there are side baskets that you can put on there, and those won't shift your center of gravity. I've had an accident myself too. He's talking about when you don't have something that keeps the backpack secure to you and it shifts, all of a sudden your balance is gone. There's something externally throwing your center of gravity off. So again, something important to think about. What else does this have? Well, I have it here. It has cargo carrying capacity, so I can actually expand it, because sometimes you don't know what life's gonna throw at you. Oh, it turns out I really wanted that watermelon from the farmer's market, so I'm gonna put it in here, right? But yeah, think about the things that are important to you. Think about your personality and your sense of whimsy. What might happen that day? Be ready for anything, right? Or maybe it's okay to not have the perfect bike commute, to not have the perfect day. You kind of learn through the process what you need, what you wish you had. And that's kind of the point of this right here, right? Like every time you commute, you might find something different that you want to do, or you're like, yeah, this time I do want to go to the farmer's market and I need to make sure those flowers don't get crushed, right? There are solutions for it. All right, moving along. Flat kit and multi-tool. You might get a flat. Do you have a flat kit in your car? You don't have a car. You probably should, right? This is kind of an optional thing. If you have a backup plan, a friend nearby who can just pick you up, fine. Maybe you don't need to know this. But a flat kit would consist of tire levers to pry the tire off, a tube, because what happens is there's a tube running inside your tire. If you guys really want to learn how to fix a flat, we might be able to do that after the class. But there's a tube in here that can get a puncture, and you have to replace that tube or patch it, which takes a little more time and patience. And if you don't have that, just bring a tube. And, well, some way to inflate it. This is a cool little hand pump that you can actually mount to the frame itself. You see where that water bottle cage is on my bike, where the water bottle is? You can mount this underneath there, and the pump is with you at all times. Other ways that people do inflation is a CO2 canister and an inflator head. It's quicker. There's less pumping of the air into the tire itself, like less physical labor. But it's a one-shot wonder kind of thing, right? If you accidentally release the air anywhere but your tire, then what are you gonna do? So most people prefer to have a little frame pump. All right, and then of course, how are you gonna carry all of that? There's saddle bags. You can put something like this under the saddle of the bike. They usually have little Velcro straps where you can put that there. For one of my other bikes, I can't do that, so I have a tube strap. It looks like this before it has all the fancy stuff in it. And I can just mount this. Let's pretend this is the bike. And pretty much mount it anywhere that there's a tube, a frame tube on the bike. Questions? Okay. Protective eyewear. It is really buggy lately in my neighborhood. I don't know about y'all, but it's really buggy in mine. So even on those days where it's a little dark, I like to wear some protective gear. They come in all sorts of different tints. You can do a clear one. If it's a sunny day, you can do this. You can wear your regular sunglasses. You can wear your regular glasses. But protective eyewear is helpful. Sometimes there's debris that comes off of trucks that might land in your eye. You don't really want that either. A leg band. So have y'all noticed that skinny jeans aren't in yet anymore? I wore these just for today. On days where I really want to wear my big old flare bottom jeans, I will bring a leg band. Now, why would I do that? Why would I want to put a leg cuff, leg band?
Get caught in a chain.
Exactly. You don't want your clothing to get caught in the chain. You also don't want it to get dirtied, right? There's going to be grease on there. A well-maintained bicycle is going to have a lubricated chain that tends to pick up dirt and grime, and you don't want that on those brand new pants you just got. A carrying system. We've talked about all sorts of the backpack. We talked a little bit about this bucket, but there are other things you can do. This is a specially designed bag where you can actually strap the bag to a front rack. Then you can pull it off and you're ready to go. You have everything you need. If you're someone who travels light, all you have is phone, wallet, keys, something like this is really handy. You can just put it on the front when you get to your destination, right? It would just go on the, that's not a great example. It would go on the front handlebars. Like this. And once you get to your destination, you just pull your items out, or you can unvelcro the whole bag and run off. Some of them even come with little straps. You can make it like a little strap bag. This one is a fanny pack. Some people like to use fanny packs. Again, make sure that it's secure, doesn't throw off your center of gravity. This is a larger handlebar bag if you need that. And again, for minimalists, this is called a keg. It's something where you can store small items and it can replace that water bottle. So you can put your flat kit in here, you can put your keys in here, whatever it is. If you really don't want to carry anything on your back, but you're a minimalist, you can get away with this. Cool. Any questions or other ideas that people want to share? Ooh, we have a sweet bag down there. Oh yeah, those are super cool.
Yeah, I have a rack, and this is like the Explorer.
Yeah.
That's the Explorer rack. And so you can, slide like a basket if you want, but I got a trunk bag because I have my, laptop that's pretty large, but they fit. They have like side bags that I can collapse.
Mm-hmm.
It made it so much easier on my 0.6 mile.
That's good. Yeah. Yep. That Toe Peak one is nice. It has a click base, so she can just click it in and out very easily. Yeah. And that would just go like on the top of a rear rack. I don't have an example of that right now, but yeah. There's so many options. It's actually really cool. You were talking about it earlier, what people have managed to come up with, because they do want to get there by bike. And if that little bag is the difference between you taking your car and taking a bike, it might be worth the investment.
Is that waterproof too?
I'll bet it's nuclear proof.
It's nuclear proof. All right.
Is it possible to, if you have too much stuff on the bike, like weighing it down or something like that?
We talked a little bit about structural weight limits earlier before. That would truly be the point at which it's unsafe, and maybe that will compromise the frame and the wheels. But for the most part, no. It'll slow you down, right, if you're carrying more. But not really. Also, apparel for all riding conditions. There is no bad weather, only bad clothing. I kind of like that one. So let's talk a little bit about clothing. Here's an optional item if you just want to be extra safe and extra visible. We got a safety vest. If your hands tend to get cold, or if you're worried that, oh, maybe if I do tip over, I'm gonna throw my hands out. I want a little extra protection. These are great. They also come in all sorts of different colors. If you can dream it, they probably have it in high vis, okay? When days get a little bit cold, this is a special little wind stopper beanie that I can wear that fits under my helmet. Sometimes I have to wear a bigger helmet in the winter. If it rains, this is a little showers pass hat. It's got waterproof abilities, and it's got a little bill here, right? When it rains and you're in the car, you got a windshield. When you're on a bike, you don't. So this helps to capture those rain droplets that are most likely to get in your eyes. It also shields from the sun. Bandanas can be very helpful. This is a special Trailblazers one. But, you know, some people just like to wrap it around, use it to cover your face if you're worried about pollution or dustiness or just being cold. You can use something like this. There's also neck tubes, gaiters, right? So if you can keep your neck warm on the bike, that's a really helpful thing for those chillier days. And why are we talking about this today? Well, it's been really hot lately, but typically in the fall here in Northwest Arkansas, we have these big changes in temperatures, right? We have these big swings where in the morning I might be all cozy in my turtleneck, but by the afternoon I'm wishing I was wearing a short sleeve shirt and shorts, right? So those are other things. You want to start thinking about things that you can layer and peel off. And then you also, right, you're going to need somewhere to store it. So that goes back to the storage thing. What am I going to take with me? What am I going to have to store later? High visibility. There are also a lot of cycling items that are very versatile. This one is very dirty and a little faded, but I just love it so much. It can actually turn into simply a vest. I can unzip the sleeves and it'll just be a vest. When I'm feeling very proud of Trailblazers, I might wear this one. This is actually a sun shirt. A high-vis sun shirt can be really nice for sun protection, a little bit of extra warmth, and visibility is not bad. What if you, I don't know, want to pack it away very quickly? They actually make clothing that zips up into a very packable way. So this is a jacket, believe it or not. And then once that's done, I just stuff the strap in this chest pocket, and you don't even know that's what it is. Pretty cool, I think. But what if you just want to ride a bike? You can wear regular clothing. I'm here to say it's okay to wear regular clothing because most days I will typically just wear this. Maybe I'll wear it without this. But this is what I wear. Maybe I'll use the cuff, a helmet, sunglasses, done. This is my casual rain jacket. Sometimes I will wear it. The only thing you want to consider on a bike, though, is that it's not too long because it can then get caught on the seat. So you want to make sure, again, that nothing is interfering with the bike or yourself. So test it out. Make sure that you're not going to get snagged trying to come into a stoplight. I also have rain pants. These are very cool. Bontrager makes these. You can't see it right now, but there's actually lights built into the pants. So another fun pro tip is that when people see that you have something reflective or bright on your feet, that part that's moving, right? Imagine the pedals are moving. That actually attracts their attention more and helps them fill in the gaps. They go, oh, okay. I see reflectivity on the back of a helmet. I see reflectivity on a backpack. I see feet moving. That's a person on a bike. And they're likely to be a little more cautious, okay? All right, let's see, we've got a lot. So maybe we go to this part. Let's talk about what we want to prioritize today. We want to talk about planning your first commute. A, make sure your bike is ride ready. You've got that ABC quick checklist on that resource guide. You're gonna check your air. You're gonna check and make sure both brakes are working. You're gonna check to see that your chain is running smoothly. If it's rusted or not running smoothly, we'll need chain lube. And this is the part where I realize I forgot my chain lube at home. But it is a very bike-specific lubricant. This is usually where I say, all right, everybody raise your hands. I solemnly swear to never use WD-40 on my bike chain. Okay, because we're looking for a lubricant. We're not looking for a water displacer. We're looking for a lubricant. So go into your local bike shop. High Roller is probably one of the closest bike shops to here right now. And they'll give you advice. They'll give you advice on whether it's going to be the right lubricant for you or not. There can be silicone-based, there can be ones that are good in dry conditions, good in wet conditions, etc. But they can help you that way. A, air, B, brakes, C, chain, Q, quick. Make sure all your quick release levers are closed, and then check. You can just bounce the bike around, see if anything's rattling loose. And if anything beyond that point is not something within your abilities, just go to the bike shop. It really doesn't hurt to go in and say, hey, thinking about doing my first commute. Can you tell me if my bike is safe to ride? And they'll usually say, it's great, or no, it's not safe. This is what we're gonna have to fix. But you want to make sure that before you do that first trip, that you're gonna get there, that you're gonna get there on time, and that you're not gonna be cursing at the bike on the side of the road, okay? So how are you gonna plan your route? And test it. That is usually what I recommend. If you're trying to get to somewhere important, why not try it ahead of time? Why not take a look at those roads? Maybe you can even scope it out by car. How many of you know about the Bike Google Maps feature? Yeah, a few heads. Show you here real quick. So, if you go onto Google Maps, let's say we're at Fayetteville Public Library, we want to go Ozark Natural Foods. There's a car option. There's a bus option. There is a walking option, and there is a cycling option. This will usually try to redirect you through slower traveling roads and bike paths. So I do like this as far as getting a good start. Another really cool feature, if you live in Fayetteville, is some bike-specific routes that they have here. You also have access to those maps there if you don't already have one. But these are actually meant to take elevation into account, routes that are a little bit flatter. You can also do that in the Google Maps feature, right? This lower section here, that's about the elevation we're expecting. If we go this other way, oh, just kidding. I think that was the elevation right there. Yeah, these are like the 3 route elevations compared. So sometimes you might see a giant peak and you're like, uh-oh, I don't know that I want to do that. But that's pretty much it. You do want to think about it ahead of time. You don't want to be lost somewhere, pulling out your phone, trying to figure out where to go. If you do choose to use Google Maps, there's also things like phone mounts that you can put on your handlebars. That way, I call her Bridget. I don't know what her actual name is, the voice on Google Maps, but she will yell at you. They will yell at you and tell you where to go. You can also look at the map itself. You can also use Strava if you want to record your commute and show off to your friends everything you did. All right, you also want to check the weather, right? You want to know what's coming up. Usually if you're driving, you're less concerned about that. You want to pack smart. What are you going to need that day? Are you going to need a bike lock? Is it going to be dusk or dawn at any point? Do you need your lights? Do you need to cool down and clean yourself up once you get there? Do you need to factor in an extra 10 minutes to wipe yourself down? How many of you are concerned with how you're going to look and smell when you get to your destination? Yeah, I usually am just a little bit. I try to get more moisture-wicking clothing is what I'm going to wear that day. I've started to build my wardrobe to be more flexible in that way, but there are also things like body wipes that you can use to give yourself a little shower when you get there. I have a fan set up at my desk to help cool myself down, make that sweat evaporate. What are other things that people can think of?
I change my clothes completely sometimes when I get to class.
Yeah.
So gross.
Yeah. And some of us sweat more than others, or some days are hotter than others, and that's okay. But if you pack an extra set of clothing, you're fine. I know some people who drop off their whole week's worth of clothes on a Monday and take their dirties home on a Friday. Like, you know, you can mix things up. You can do a little bit of driving and a little bit of biking. All right, Tuesday through Thursday, I'm gonna ride my bike, but those other weeks, I'm gonna bring my meals, I'm gonna bring my clothing, I'm gonna bring whatever I might need, okay? Yep, did you bring your lunch? Have a backup plan and learn how to fix a flat. We talked about some tools for fixing a flat, but it's good to have a friend on call, that coworker, your little bestie, your schoolmate. Let them know maybe that you're commuting that day when it's the first one. I might need help, I don't know. I've certainly had that where I had an unfixable flat and I had a friend who was able to pick me and my bike up, and that was great. But you can also look into the ORT. Maybe you can lock your bike up somewhere and you can take a spin or Veo the rest of the way. There are things that you might want to look around on your route between here and there that could help you create a backup plan for yourself. All right. Whew. Down to the nitty-gritty. Any questions before moving on?
But on those rides, you might want to take an energy bar if you're not used to it. Especially
Yes.
if it's your first few rides.
Yep. So that is a good point, right? We don't have to fill up the engine with gasoline or diesel, but we do have to fill up our engine. We are the engines for the bicycles. So I recommend eating well before that you go ride. If it is a 15 or 30-minute commute, maybe you're okay. But if it's a full hour, hour and a half of riding your bike, you do want to have a snack with you. And maybe it is just in case. Maybe you had a busy day, you forgot to eat lunch, you're on your way home, and you do what we call bonking. You completely run out of energy. You can't really even push the pedals. So you want that little spurt of sugary energy, okay? Like a little, I don't know, think maple syrup, think honey, think little fruit snacks, think your favorite gummy candy. Those are good things to have, or an energy bar. But the sugar will get to your system quicker in those other forms. All right, let's talk about some rules of the road. So the bicycle is not technically considered a vehicle under Arkansas state law, but we do still have duties and responsibilities. So some of those are going to be making sure that we're visible. We already talked about having a front white light, and we want those to be visible from a distance of at least 500 feet. It's not dark enough in here to experiment that, but you could have a friend situate 500 feet away from you and say, hey, can you see me from there? And if the answer is no, you probably need stronger lights. Can you show Gavin? So these are the headlight. The ones that you'll be getting are USB rechargeable, and they do have different modes: flashing, stable. Brakes, you're not required to have brakes, but it is a safety feature. I highly recommend it. I highly suggest it. All right. Also the Idaho stop. So are cyclists required to stop at all stop signs? No. It is a thing that is special to this area. So if you are traveling elsewhere, commuting elsewhere, you do want to stay up to your local jurisdiction's laws. Here, you can slow down at a stop sign, and as long as it's clear, proceed forward. You can treat red lights as stop signs too. That is a more dangerous thing to navigate. If you want to be on the safer side of things, go ahead and stop at a stop sign. Go ahead and stop at a red light. I mean, definitely stop at a red light, sorry. If you want to stop at a stop sign, stop at a stop sign. But you have to use all of your senses to make sure that there's nothing else that's going to be coming your way. You're not compromising your safety.
And I
Yeah.
just wanted to add that, both of those you have to yield to right of way in both those instances.
Yes.
So if someone else is pulling up at a stop sign,
Yes.
then you do have to stop.
Yes.
If there's people going back and forth with a green light, you're definitely stopping.
Yes, exactly.
But in both those situations, the stop sign, there's no one there, then you can treat it as a yield. If there's no one at the stoplight, you look around, there's no one coming, you can treat it as a stop sign.
Correct. Thank you.
I was gonna say, another point is that even though you're allowed this latitude, you also have to be mindful of pedestrians, which are one level down on the hierarchy from bike riders. So just because you Idaho stop through a four-way stop, that doesn't mean that the, woman pushing the baby carriage is fair game.
And to that point, a lot of drivers don't know anything about an Idaho stop or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they get offended when they see a rider go through.
Mm-hmm.
So just, in the spirit of good, I don't know. Yeah, just being, we don't want to give cyclists a bad name. Just use it judiciously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree with all of these things. Yeah, try to be constantly aware, read the situation. As someone mentioned, we might now know what the Idaho stop is, but for how many of us was this new? Yeah. And so there are others out there who are completely unaware of this. So if you notice that there is a car there, yeah, give them the right of way. Let them go ahead and proceed through the intersection if they have the right of way. Okay? Oh, hello. Ultimately, let's see, motorists passing a cyclist. If you are a motorist hoping to pass a cyclist, give them 3 feet. Especially with larger vehicles, there is the potential for there to be almost this vacuum that draws the cyclist in. So you want to give as much space as is safely possible. That doesn't mean that you as a cyclist should be riding in the gutter, right? We can talk a little bit more about lane positioning. You want to keep yourself safe in the best position to keep your bike upright and going to your destination, but a motorist should be giving you 3 feet of space as they pass. Signaling. We're not technically vehicles, but it is a very helpful thing for you, for the vehicles, for the pedestrians around you, to be aware of what your next move is going to be. It's a way to signal to them that you are trying to make a change. When it comes to these, I highly suggest the scan, signal, scan formula. So if you are going to turn left, you want to scan, look over your shoulder. You want to then signal your left-hand turn, put it back on the handlebars, still look again, make sure that nothing has changed, keeping in mind that a motor vehicle is going to be traveling at a much higher speed than you, so anything could change. You always want to scan, signal, scan. These are also on that resource guide. You can have a right-hand turn signal. You can also use your hand to say you're stopping or slowing down. All right, so generally, staying safe. We want to follow the law. We also want to ride with traffic, right? Some people believe that a cyclist is safest going against traffic. We actually need to be riding alongside traffic. So you're going to be traveling on the right-hand side of the road, and you usually want to use the rightmost lane that serves your destination. That means that if it's a 2-lane road and they're both going straight, you want to be in the right-hand lane still. If you are turning left and it's a 2-lane road, that is when it's okay to put yourself in the left lane because your destination is the left and that's still the rightmost lane for where you're going. Be predictable. You want to ride in a straight line. I'm thinking like flashbacks of some of those like Hollywood movies where the bike courier is weaving in and out of all the cars. That is not the safest way to ride in traffic. You want to make yourself predictable. You want to make sure that you're not swerving between cars that are moving or parked. You also want to, again, scan, signal, scan. When you're signaling your turns, you also signaling your lane changes. So if you're moving over into the left-hand lane, scan, left, move over. You want to still signal that. Stay visible. Ride where people can see you and wear bright clothing. There are many options. If you have a bright thing you can wear, I even found a fancy dress shirt that is a bright neon pink that I wore the other day. So ride where people can see you. That means also, how do I say this? Maybe not ride on the sidewalk. We'll go into that a little bit too. Use front and rear lights. Make eye contact. Right, we were talking about those intersections where there's a car there. I'll usually look at them, make eye contact. If I make eye contact, I know they see me, okay? If they don't, if they're like looking over to their right, they're probably not gonna notice you, and I'd probably let them get out of the way before I get in their way. Avoid sidewalks. Why would we avoid sidewalks?
ride sidewalks a lot, just in my commute, because I'd rather be on a sidewalk than dealing with somebody doing 30 miles an hour on a two-lane road. But people will pull into sidewalks if they're, like a driveway and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So I consider myself invisible when I'm there.
Yep.
And just have to be really hyper-aware of
Mhm.
what's around me.
So what was mentioned was that, I have to do it for this. What was mentioned is that there are driveway entrances and exits that usually intersect with the sidewalk. So acting as if you're invisible really is a great way to think about it. People aren't expecting a cyclist to be on a sidewalk, although you are legally allowed to do that. You want to be very aware of not only cars coming from wherever that parking lot is or that house, but you also want to be aware of people who might be turning into those driveways from the main road. So you have to be doubly aware in that situation. There may also be trash cans out. There may be an uneven sidewalk. There are many reasons, but also cars aren't expecting you to be moving at the speed that you're moving. They may be expecting a pedestrian, a walker, to be moving, but they're not expecting the speed of a cyclist. So you also typically should ride a little bit slower when on a sidewalk.
One other thing about sidewalks is if you're riding a sidewalk against traffic, that's even worse. Because people that are pulling into they don't tend to look to the right. If they're taking a right turn, they usually don't look to the right. They're looking to the left because that's where the traffic is coming from.
Yep.
And if you're coming from the right,
Yep.
you almost guarantee they won't see it.
Yeah.
They never look that way.
Yep.
I've had that happen
Yeah.
numerous times. So I don't even ride on sidewalks against traffic.
And that's another danger. Honestly, I think it's a danger on either side. People are looking into the roads and not really even expecting a walker on a sidewalk. They're not used to people using active transportation. Some of us have to. Some of us choose to, but some of us have to. So even as drivers, we need to be doubly aware when we're approaching pedestrian intersections, sidewalks, etc. Okay, think ahead. Anticipate what drivers, pedestrians, and other cyclists will do next. You're doing that already, right? Think about yourself as a driver. Oh, nobody ever pays attention at this right-hand turn. Nobody, right? So you have to wait. You have to be cautious. You want to watch returning vehicles and avoid the door zone. There's a lot more street parking here in Fayetteville, a little less in other areas. What's the door zone?
Where people open their door, you get out of their car.
Yes.
You're riding alongside the car.
Yes, I've seen someone lose their doors to vehicles that way. But the worst thing could be a cyclist comes and runs into that door, sends you over the bars, you're down. So I would do my best to avoid that door zone. Do not ride closely, even to parked cars. If you, as a driver, want to be extra safe, one thing you can do is actually use your right hand to reach over to open the door. It forces you to look back and see if there's a cyclist coming in a bike lane. Let's say there's a bike lane there, or even a car, right? Look out for debris. Oops, no. Look for debris, potholes, other road hazards. Anything can pop up. Cross railroad tracks at right angles. So sometimes, maybe it's not even just railroad tracks, but there are things that, in a railroad track, there's a groove. And if you ride parallel to that groove, you're more likely to get your tire sucked in there. If you ride perpendicular to that groove, you can usually ride over it pretty safely. If you do it at an angle, you're still a little in danger, but the safest approach is to roll over that groove perpendicular. So at a right angle. Right. And avoid wearing headphones. I know we all love to have our tunes with us. I've seen some of the bone shock stuff. It's kind of the bone induction headphones are kind of nice. But overall, if you want to increase your safety, be as aware as you possibly can. Maybe just enjoy the sounds of traffic and birds that day instead. All right, we are at 2:32. We've gone over a lot of things. What I can say is there's a lot to do with commuting, but I want to make sure that I'm respectful of y'all's time. If you want to leave a little bit early, we can, or not early. If you want to wrap up and go home, you can. If you want to stick around and learn a little bit more, we can. I want to make some room for questions. What haven't we covered that you really wanted to know today?
I just want to say something. Trailblazers really makes it easy, and if any of you haven't started yet, and you really want to try, they will make it as easy as possible for you to do it the right way. I'd like to take this moment. My wife Manisa is a first-time rider. She had never pedaled before. Trailblazers gave her 3 classes. What do they call them?
Oh, thank you.
What do they,
That's so
First
sweet.
time pedal,
Thank
what do
you.
call it?
Adult first ride.
And Marisa got a helmet and a wonderful bicycle. It's opened up a whole new world for me.
I'm glad
Thank
to
you
hear
so
that.
much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That is our goal. We want to open up worlds for you. Any other questions?
What do you think about flipping your shoes to your pedals?
I,
Some people love to, I
Yeah.
won't do it just because it scares me, but other people are scared.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I enjoy using, the question was how we feel about clipless pedals. There used to be a thing called toe clips, and you can still use those where you strap your foot in, but it does make it very difficult to put your foot out should you need to make an emergency stop and put your foot down. Clipless pedals actually have a piece on the bottom of the shoe that connects with the pedal itself. That is a little bit easier to get out of, but for my shorter rides, the less gear I have to bring, the better. With clipless shoes, they're uncomfortable to walk in and they don't look as good as my regular shoes. I just, let's say in the winter or on a rainy day, these are my waterproof boots. I will just wear these, and it's a lot easier. I just use regular flat pedals, and I can wear whichever shoes I'd like. So for a short commute, no. If I was doing a 20-mile commute, maybe. And maybe I just leave a pair of shoes at work instead.
And if you do like clipless pedals, they make pedals like double shot, where it's flat on one side and then clipless on the other.
Yeah. Great point.
I've done clipless before, and I'll say I've fallen off my bike more doing clipless, coming to a complete stop and not getting my foot out. And anybody see President Biden, he fell off his bike? He had those toe clips on. They did not do him right on that, whether you like him or not. He should never have had those on, because he did the same thing I've done several times where he just couldn't get his foot out.
Yeah. Yeah. If you are curious about clipless pedals, I will say that you are most likely to tip over at 0 miles an hour, because you forget that you're connected and you're like, oh, right? Like, luckily the bushes caught me that day, but that is the reality. Anything else? What else?
You never fall over when there's nobody around.
No. Well, if you are curious to learn more and even more advanced things, some of the things that we talked about are also from the League of American Bicyclists. So I'm what they call a league cycling instructor, and they do actually have a lot of online videos that can go a little bit more in depth. So if you're curious about lane positioning, speed positioning, etc., how to navigate more tricky intersections, they have some really great video clips that you can dig into there. On top of that,
Like roundabouts and stuff?
it may talk about roundabouts. Not sure about roundabouts, but
drivers
when
don't
lanes
even know how to
disappear, yeah, things like what to do when a lane disappears, or should I stay towards the inside of a turn, or should I be in the middle, should I be in the outside of the lane? Like, I recommend at least being in the middle of the lane if you're taking a right-hand turn to try to avoid someone overtaking you. If you stay towards the right-hand side, like the gutter lane, people are more likely to try to turn with you and kind of shove you into a place that you don't want to be. So, yeah, look into those videos if you want a little more in-depth material. But other than that, I also recommend signing up for our newsletter. We'll have other classes that we will be offering. We also have an e-bike rebate incentive program that will be spearheaded by Trailblazers that will be coming out next year, but it does serve Northwest Arkansas Bentonville already has its e-bike rebate program, so not Bentonville, but everywhere else. Do you want to share any details about that, David?
Sure, yeah, there's a program that's funded by the EPA. It's called the Tri-Region E-Bike Incentive Program. So it's going to serve Northwest Arkansas, Fort Smith, and Central Arkansas. It's very new. They're still getting the federal agreement in place, so there's really nothing to share. It's something that will be coming in 2025. But it would provide a point of sale rebate for people that can apply, so that if they get that rebate, they can show up to a bike shop and immediately get a discount on the bike.
All right. And e-bikes are usually the solution for heavier cargo, longer trips, not wanting to be as sweaty once you get to your destination. It really helps eliminate a lot of excuses. So,
Older knees.
yeah.
Has there been any discussion about how e-bikes can also be more dangerous in terms of competing with pedestrians specifically, or maybe even just acoustic cyclists or whatever, because they go faster?
Mm.
My experience, a lot of the riders are not as experienced riders.
Mm.
Or maybe they used to ride motorcycles. I don't know, but it just,
Yeah.
I've had to tangle a lot recently with e-bikers, and they're just zooming past me, and almost not paying attention to the same rules that we've just been talking about here.
Yeah. I think it's a tricky thing to navigate. I think that as many of these educational things as we can create, the better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to be here to carry that information. Maybe it's worth having casual conversations with more of your friends and trying to spread the word about that. David, anything else?
I might just mention that the Razorback Greenway does have a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit.
That's true, too.
And just like anything, your own acoustic bike or an e-bike or a motor vehicle, it all takes personal responsibility.
Yeah.
So that's new to me. I would love, where is it posted that it's only 15?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember
It is
seeing
posted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people going much faster than
Yeah.
15 on the Greenway.
And on the resource guide, there's a QR code to our website. Some of that has direct links to different cities' rules regarding the speed limits on their trails. But the best thing you can do is probably go to your city's website and look up some of that information. And again, like David mentioned, there is signage too. But there are things like some places don't allow riding on sidewalks for certain areas. So it is always good to look at your local laws as well. Great. I would say, Gavin, let's hand out some lights. And if you have any additional questions, you are welcome to hang out. I'll be here. But y'all are, for the most part, free to go. If you want to touch anything, see anything. Thanks, y'all.
Is there any website that has all the trails from all the cities? Is it updated regularly as to what's closed, under construction, et cetera?